So first of all, I'd like to say good morning and thank you for being here today. I am going to do a presentation on CAD pumps and how they are underutilized in the home care setting. Most of you already know me. I'm Monica. I'm your coworker. I think there's one familiar new face, and we will get to know each other. Basically, research has suggested that CAD pumps are underutilized in the home at the present time because of clinician insecurity and patient fear. Today we're going to review CAD pumps, we're going to review education, the importance of education, education for our families, education for ourselves. We'll take a look at the CAD pump as well, and I did do a home care survey and I'll just review the results of that with you. Hopefully after this presentation, my goal for all of you is that you're a little bit more confident with using the CAD pump and suggesting the CAD pump for use. And with that comes being more confident in our teaching for our families and our patients. So there's advantages and there's disadvantages to a pump. The advantages are that it's safe and it's simple, it's user-friendly, it's well suited for home care because our patients can still get up and get around, they can go out, and that makes it great for our home care patients. Our disadvantages typically is fear, and fear is the biggest disadvantage for CAD pumps. The patients are fearful, it's new, they don't understand it. Clinicians can be fearful as they're just not familiar with using the pump. And with fear comes the fear of making an error. So we're going to look at that next. Errors with our CAD pumps. In a study done by Ms. Baird in 2010, she did a study on how many errors actually occurred, and 55% were user error, whereas 34% of the 55% were actually done during the programming of the pump. What I found interesting in this study is only 4% was the actual infusing of the pump where the error occurred. So I thought that was very interesting. Baird stated that through education, through her research, she stated through education, we can minimize those errors. So how can we prevent errors? Well, first of all, it's education. Second of all, it's being proactive and being honest with yourself, knowing, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. Seeking out a coworker and saying, can I go with you? Can you show me how to use that? Can I change the cassette? You need to be proactive and get yourself out there, get your hands on that pump, and that will build your confidence with these pumps. The other things that we can do is when you pick up your CAD pump, if you're initiating it, is your first check is going over your settings with the pharmacist. That's your first check to make sure your pump is set correctly. When you get in the home and you start the medication, when you hit start, it's going to run through all of the settings. That's your second check of making sure, is my pump set correctly? And here in our organization, we use a flow sheet for communication. This is our organization's flow sheet. We keep it in the home and make sure that it's up to date. While you're filling it out, that's actually, in fact, your third check to make sure that your pump is set correct. So in essence, at our organization, we have 3 opportunities to make sure our pump is set correctly, which really lessens our risk of medication error. So teaching our families. You need to, again, the biggest thing is be confident. Don't go in there and say, I've never done this before, I'm new. You want to go in with air of confidence and you don't show your fear. Take somebody with you. You want to teach them to pay attention to the alerts. Show them on the screen where to look for the amount, because we're going to be calling them and asking how much is left in your cassette. Let them play with it. Let them dose themselves. Let the family dose. These things, letting them get their hands on this, is going to ease their anxiety of having this device in the home. So should I suggest a pump? Well, we need to look at the big picture. You need to look at the whole patient. You need to ask yourself, is my patient comfortable? Are their symptoms controlled? Am I constantly dosing or changing my doses and changing medications? Are my family members or is my patient setting an alarm and getting up every 2 hours to medicate the patient to keep them comfortable? Those are the questions you want to ask yourself. So, a CAD pump. A CAD pump is a pump that delivers medication at a constant rate, which you'll hear the term basal rate often in our field, and it allows for breakthrough doses, which is our demand rate, and it gives this through a 24-hour period continuously to the patient. This is our standard pump, as well as the one I'm holding in my hand, that we typically use here at Hospice of the Upstate. At the end of this presentation, I'll still be here. We can go over the pump if you want to play with it. I did print you all out a PCA programming sheet. You can go over that sheet if you like with me after the presentation, and we can play with the pump. Okay, so first of all, again, I'd like to thank everybody for participating in the survey. With the survey, it was completely confidential. I don't know who answered what. I have no idea. But I did find that 60% were secure with using the pump. However, they felt like they needed more education. 10% of our staff were completely secure and didn't feel like they needed any education whatsoever. They were completely comfortable going into the home and initiating and using the pump. What I found interesting with our survey is although we had people that were comfortable but wanted more education, we are still recommending the pump. 50% of us are still recommending the pump to our patients. So that tells me that we're on the right track. We're not afraid to put ourselves out there and say, we need to do something else to get the pain under control. So in summary, I just like to say that we can empower ourselves through education. And through education, you're going to get more confident in your skills. With that confidence with these pumps is don't be afraid of them. Get your hands on them. Like I said, be proactive. It's time to stop chasing the pain. Let's control the nausea and be the difference. We can set the bar for hospices around us if we just control their symptoms. And that's all I have. Is there any questions?
I have one.
Okay.
Which symptoms are most effectively managed with the CAD pump in our hospice home care?
Typically, in our program here, we manage pain management and intractable nausea and vomiting. They also, for pain management, would typically use morphine or Dilaudid, and for intractable nausea and vomiting, we'll start with DRAB, which is a mixture of Decadron, Reglan, Ativan, and Benadryl that the pharmacy mixes up for us. But those are typically the two symptoms that we control right now in the home, is pain management and nausea and vomiting.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Very helpful.
I have a question. What is the risk of accidental overdose with the CAD pump?
Very good question. The risk is actually very low, and it really comes down to, did we do all of our final checks on the pump? When these pumps are in lock level 2, nothing can be changed. The only thing that can happen is that they can dose themselves, and it's going to lock them out of their dose. So if we are doing our checks appropriately and keeping it on lock level 2, they can't change anything. So it really minimizes the risk of overdose. McIntyre in 2001 did a study as well. Granted, it was 2001, but he did a study again that stated use our locks and don't share the codes with the families, and we will lessen our risk of overdose.
I have a question.
Yes.
What do you do if the family adamantly refuses to use the pump, even though that might be the solution?
That's a tough one because, ethically we want to do everything we can for them, but it comes down to ethics and it comes down to what is right. And the right thing is the patient has the right to choose. And if the patient can no longer make choices for themselves, it falls to the primary caregiver or the medical power of attorney. And if they are adamant and we have done our teaching, we need to educate, take out materials, explain the simplicity, maybe even take the pump out to the home and show them. If they are still adamant, then we need to look for alternative measures for symptom control for them, because at the end of the day, they have the right to choose. Any other questions? Well, great. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and I hope you all got something out of this presentation. Thank you. A few minutes to